This is the story of a man who began before time began, and of that which he revealed to us of himself. He was in the beginning with God, and he was God. In him, all things came into being, and in him was life. And that life was the light of men. A light that shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not overpowered it. The light shines in the darkness, and it shines.
Floods hit the southwest region. Thousands flee their homes.
And it shines.
Elderly couple slain in their home.
And it shines.
The number of young teenagers involved in pornographic filming has reached staggering proportions.
And it shines.
The residents struggle to clear away the debris. The cost is estimated at $3 million.
A grandson is suspected of a crime rampage.
Several million in danger of starvation. Food takes backseat to military cargo.
Some are good kids, caught in a moment of casual rebellion.
The crisis is devastating. The government uses famine as an instrument of war. A senseless tragedy.
A senseless tragedy.
A senseless tragedy.
A senseless tragedy.
A senseless tragedy. Where today is that shining light?
Where today is that beacon of hope?
Where today is that thought of peace?
This is the story of a man who he himself was peace. And during his life, there were signs, miracles, glimpses of his glory. The first was in Cana of Galilee.
Cana, a tiny little dot of a place. Nothing more than lint on the sleeve of Galilee. In Cana, there was a wedding. There was much feasting, much hurrying of busy servants. Everyone was there. A small party had even come from Nain, and Mary of Nazareth was there.
Yes, she was there. She was my cousin. Would I overlook my own cousin at my son's wedding? Not likely. Not very likely. She was invited. But then at last moment, she sent a message. Her son, the rabbi, would be in town. Could she bring him to the wedding? Oh, she's so proud of that son and that happening in the Jordan. Did you hear about that?
What? Hear about what?
John, Elizabeth's son, baptized Mary's son in the Jordan. John the Baptizer specializes in baptizing Jews, and he said he heard the voice of God thundering forth that Jesus was the Son of God.
And this Jesus is here at the wedding?
Yes. What could I do when Mary hinted that I invited her son also? And then she mumbled something about a group of close friends traveling with them. 12 of them, mind you. 12 hungry vagabonds. What could I say? No, we've only enough for family. Not likely. Not very likely. Get this. When they got here, Mary pulled me aside and said they brought no token with them. No token indeed. No wine, no extras but themselves. Oh, but of course, I assured her we had plenty. Oh, which we don't. We'll run out for sure.
Don't worry about it. Look, everyone's having a marvelous time. They're all going to say this was the most wonderful wedding they've ever seen.
I hope so. I hope it'll be a wedding to be remembered. Look, there's Simon and Leah.
Hey, Mama, let the kitchen take care of itself. You're missing all the fun.
Yes, Mrs. Benjamin, we've been so...
Mrs.? I'm the mama. To you too now.
Oh, Mama.
Leah, you'll make my boy happy just by smiling at him.
I'll go see to the wine.
We've got a lot of people here.
Yeah, who are all these people? I just met a guy from Bethsaida?
Bethsaida.
Bethsaida, that's the place. And his name was Philip. He didn't know any of us.
Wait, honey, you just met him? I thought he was an old friend of yours.
No, I never met him before in my life. Or that friend of his from Jerusalem, that tax collector.
Wait. If you don't know him and I don't know him, then who invited him?
They were with Mary's son. I've known Jesus since he was a little boy. He and your brother were the same age. I never thought that he would leave Nazareth, but he has a calling, they say. And now he has a following of 12 at least. 12 who seem the hungriest at our tables. The guests uninvited are always the ones to eat the most.
Don't let her fool you. She wants the world to come to her parties. She's been planning this one since my bar mitzvah.
I couldn't have planned a prettier bride.
Oh, Mama.
The other ones were never right for Simon.
What other ones?
The other girls.
Mama, stop it!
What's it matter? You made your choice now, and it's a good one. She'll be happier knowing you had others to consider. Leah, would you believe he never winked his eye before he found you mirrored in his soul? Not likely. Not very likely. Simon, stop shushing me. Now I've got a girl to talk to.
Hey, there's Cousin Mary. She looks concerned about something.
Oh, she's looking for her son. There he is. She's found him. I remember once when we went to the temple, all of us. Oh, Mary couldn't find Jesus on the way home. Mary thought he was with Joseph, and Joseph thought it was Mary. What a search we had. Oh, they found him, still back at the temple. Mary told everyone how the rabbis were asking questions of her son and astonished at all he knew. You answered all your questions when you came of age. I didn't go around telling everyone how you confounded your teachers. Not me. Not likely. Not very likely.
I bet he was the brightest of them all.
He was. He and his brothers. But I'm not the kind of mother that talks the son into the west with stories of her family. No, not likely. Not very likely. There's Mary. She's talking to my servants. What's she telling them? Simon, go tell your father. The servants need him to tell them what to do.
It's probably not anything, Mama.
It may not be, but they'll go off doing the bidding as this was the marriage of her son. Now go! There's always been something about that Mary that makes people do what she says. She carries a stillness, like fresh water in a cup. But she does smile aloud in her mothering.
As you do, Mama. I'll be glad to be a part of this family. Oh, the wedding is so beautiful. Everyone has said so, but it goes so fast. All the months of preparation took so much time. All the decisions that had to be made, and it goes so fast. I keep telling myself to remember every detail. The candles, all the people, the little children that stroke my dress with sticky fingers. I want to remember it all so that when the time comes and the wedding's over, I can look back at it and remember it when my mind's not busy with getting married.
Yes. Go mingle, you two. The guests want memories of you. Simon, there's your uncle. Thank him for the sheep he gave you. He's not frequent in his giving. When your brother got married, he gave him freshly seasoned cheese as if it was curdled gold. To you, he gave a sheep. It's well we named you for him.
Simon, what have you done?
What?
The wine! You saved the best for last. I mean, everyone else serves the better wine earlier in the evening and the lesser later. You know, after the guests have drunk their fill, lost their taste for better wine. But no, you saved the best for last. Oh, it's a novel idea, really. The vats, the purification vats, they're filled with it. It's the best we've ever tasted. I hope the guests don't waste it on cleansing. It is the best we've ever had.
What? Those purification vats weren't filled with wine. Your father placed them empty in the kitchen this morning. Call the servants. I don't understand what's happened.
The servants they're all in the back. They're locked into whisperings. They point at Jesus as though he had done some miraculous thing. And, those men that Jesus brought with him, they're gathered around him.
I can see that. Oh, there'll be talk of this for sure. If it said that Jesus brought with him some special wine, when they didn't, I saw them as they came in, empty-handed. Oh, start the music. Too much attention is being paid to this mysterious wine. Simon, you and Leah begin the dancing. Jesus
Mama, he's not causing any trouble. Oh, I spoke to him, and his voice was comfortable in laughter. Some rabbis, they're such solemn men, but not he. He carries his joy so lightly, it flows into the faces around him. Come, Simon, let's go talk to him. He can tell us about the wine.
Start the music. It's time for dancing. I'll see to those servants.
This first sign Jesus did in Cana of Galilee. And his disciples believed him.
We've all believed in him. We didn't all believe in the sign.
No, not you, Thomas. You found it hard to believe always?
I didn't see it done.
No, you were at the supper's table, delighted with the miracle of carob sauce and honey cake.
I heard about it, though, and the talk grew. Everywhere we went, they talked about this sign. Now that stirred up the Sanhedrin. One of the leaders, Nicodemus, sought Jesus out, found him at night, and asked him some questions. You say you are from God, for no one can do these things that you do unless God is in him.
Jesus loved that interview. Ancient truth in dialogue with truth itself. And Jesus said to Nicodemus, unless you are born again, you cannot see the kingdom of God.
Born again? That is not a phrase for a man of learning. Born again. A man cannot be born when he is old. A man cannot enter back into his mother's womb, can he?
Nicodemus, don't be confounded by this truth.
But how can these things be?
And you, a teacher of the law, and you don't understand?
I want to understand, but we sit in council about such matters. We are responsible for what we teach the people and what we let the people learn from others. And yet, there's a mystery about all your teachings, a mystery confirmed by miracles. Teach me, give me understanding.
But if I have taught you of earthly things and you have not believed, how will you believe if I teach you of heavenly things?
I don't know. I don't know how to believe without reason. But if there is a means to life eternal, I would be a fool to let my ignorance block my way to it. Look, like God who is evidenced in you, speak to me. The signs you will do will rid me of my ignorance.
For God so loved the world that he...
You speak often of love. Is this love the beginning of God? I love my calling. I love my children. I love my way of life. Is this verb a doorway into the kingdom?
God so loved the world that he gave his...
So it is in giving. I give my time. I give my scholarship. I give my attention to the law.
God gave his one and only Son.
Yes. Yes, a Messiah. The prophets teach of a Messiah that is to come. It is a teaching grown stale with much waiting, but a teaching still. And the prophets, they focus us onto this time. I can accept that. God might send...
No, he gave.
A prophet from God as a gift?
No, his one and only Son.
But why, teacher? Why would God send someone to do what has not been done or say what has not been said? Why would God send his Son?
So that anyone who believes would have eternal life.
So, I suppose he must do what has not been done. I will think on this. I will study it. I will give your teaching much consideration.
Nicodemus, he who practices the truth comes into the light. And there was a second sign, also in Galilee. This time it was a royal official that had come because his son was sick in Capernaum.
My husband went to Cana to find the man Jesus who had turned the water into wine. You see, our son was sick, at the point of death, and we hoped that if this Jew who had performed the miracle would heal our son. Worry flourishes in a bed of idleness. I was glad I had things to do. There was the household staff and the other children, but my mind never left that silent room where one small boy lay hot with fever. Oh, the servants tended to him as best we knew. Baths, cool wrappings, herbs and compresses piled upon his tiny little head like a costume turban, his body wrapped in unnatural stillness. I left the house and went to the garden, as though I may draw upon the coolness for my son.
This royal official came to Jesus asking him if he could heal his son. Jesus knew that miracles brought sufferers like a magnet.
Teacher!
And at times, it seemed to weary him.
Teacher, please, my son, he's dying. You need to come with me. We must hurry.
Again, it is for signs and wonders that you come for me. If you would only believe.
My son Antonio is dying. The call for mourners has already gone out. If you can heal, come with me.
But do you believe?
I believe you have great power.
Silence and solitude are two long wearinesses, as sun and rain to seeded blooms. Beside my son's bed, I was strong. There I knew the lie of strength. I was stiff and weary and very weak. I sat facing our sundial. How slowly the pattern of light counts the hours of waiting. For what? I did not know what I was waiting for. I did not share in my husband's assurance of the healing powers of Jesus. But I had heard about the miracles. Oh, my baby, my son Antonio, live.
We must hurry.
Your son is well. Do you believe me?
I believe there's no hope but for you.
Go your way. Your son will live.
Oh, madame, madame.
I cannot answer, for then I must hear the news.
Oh, madame, there you are, and I have searched the entire house for you. Hurry, to good news, not to bad. The fever has broken. There was a sudden flushing of his face, and then a sweat so strong it did seem his skin did weep. But now he looks beyond the blankets of his stupor.
My son, he will live?
He is well to living now. I have nursed by grieving bedsides many times, and never seen one brought so low, so quickly brought back to life. Now hurry to your child. He calls for you. And for water and food, I'll have the
No. My husband. Send the servants to my husband.
Yes, the centurion. I have never seen one so distraught. Oh, except for me. Oh, and you.
Send the servants, please.
As Jesus was going down, or as the centurion was going down, his servant met him. Master, your son.
Yes, tell me.
Your son, he is well. He was eating custard when I left. Your wife was feeding him.
When?
Well, just as I was leaving, he was eating and laughing. The fever was gone. Your wife was eagerly laughing at the way he took food.
No. When did the fever leave him?
Oh, let me see. We had served the lunch meal, although nobody ate, except for the nurse. Your wife didn't even come to the table. She was too busy with the boy.
When did the fever leave him?
Yes. I'm trying to think. We had cleaned the platters and fed the dogs, and it must have been about 1 o'clock. Yes. Yeah, the nurse said that it was 1 o'clock. She saw the sundial when she went out to the garden to get your wife.
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. That's about the same time the teacher said to me, "Go, your son lives." Come, I'll tell you on the way.
And this second great sign Jesus did in Galilee, where he had turned the water into wine. And there was a time of feasting in Jerusalem. It was the Passover. And there in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, was a pool, the pool of Bethesda. And there by the pool of Bethesda were the multitudes of the sick and the lame and the withered and the dying, all waiting for an opportunity for the water to move.
22, 23, 24.
Hey, Nadia. How's it going?
26, not good. 27, 28, 29, 30. 30, not good. You know how many I had this morning? 30. So you tell me how it's going.
Business is bad, huh?
9, 10. Business is bad, yeah. 11, 12.
Where is everybody?
I don't know. You tell me, and I'll go there and set up shop.
Maybe they're at the Passover.
Yeah, except for they used to pass by me on their way.
Maybe they're all well.
And they just went limping off for exercise?
Maybe the...
Maybe you better stop maybeing things and just let me tell you what happened. 35 Bethesda bomb bubbles. I had 34 this morning. Man brought one back. Said he saw here what happened here yesterday and decided he didn't need them anymore.
Oh, what happened?
The same thing that always does, at first. So, Cutler set up his shop, all white and medical looking, with his sign, Healing Assistance Hired Here, and his weekend spinner flying across his booth.
Same as always.
Yeah. Rhonda, little Rhonda, you know Rhonda. Anyway, she set up her booth here, clamped those angel pictures right to her counter. How's a man in Emmaus doing for her? He's never met her or ever seen an angel, but she gave him all the details. So she set up her shop.
Same as always.
Yeah. The people started coming in. Friends bringing friends with stretchers and dignitaries carrying hammocks with possessions of servants. One man bought 3 deluxe crystals from me, and I thought it was going to be a good day.
Same as always.
People calling out to other people. Drivers calling out to other drivers. Old Reynolds checking his reservations for the balconies and getting a healthy bribe from the rich folk who hadn't reserved a spot.
Same as always.
The thieves weaving in and out of people. The rabble dragging themselves in from all the dark, dirty places that the rabble live. I really hate to see them come. I mean, they don't hurt any more than the rest of them, but they always look like health wouldn't do them any good.
I can see it all from the way you're telling it. Same as always.
Just wait until I tell you what made the big difference. So I was sitting here, singing out my merchandise. High quality water, fresh from the angel's touch. And little Rhonda, ringing the little bells under her eye and calling out, pictures of the angel, send them to your friends, get them while you last. And then Cutler, he was banging that canvas and looking helpful when anyone looked his way. He's got 20 boys working for him as healing assistants.
Same as
Not this time. A group of men were walking through the crowd. They didn't look like rich folk, and I thought they were merchants, but they didn't pay attention to any of our stalls. At least their leader didn't. He rushed through that crowd quickly, with a bunch straggling to catch up. They were calling back to each other, whistling, and as one of them passed me, I heard one say, "Hey, Andrew, tell him to slow down." And the guy up front said, "I will as soon as I catch him." And then everyone laughed. That was one sound we never heard around here. We never heard laughter. Laughter kind of opened up a way for the leader, and he started to make his way up the levels of invalids. Rhonda turned to me, and she said, "I think that's Jesus." And then I heard it, a murmuring, a rustling of voices. "It's Jesus, it's Jesus." I turned back, and I saw 2 men peering behind Rhonda's booth. They must have moved out when the crowd was around.
Were they with the group with Jesus?
No, they weren't. They were watching Jesus so intensely, I thought they were going to memorize him. But the people that were with Jesus, they were following him up the levels. They got to the 3rd level, and Jesus stopped. He looked down at old Gurney.
That fellow that's been coming here for so long?
Yep. They used to say he used to lean on a crutch and drag one foot. But now he just begs for travelers to carry him. Every once in a while, he'll throw a coin to Cutler, and one of his healing assistants will help him down to the pool. But they never help anyone in. From down here, we could see Jesus talking to Gurney. And we saw Gurney shaking his head in a long-winded answer. We all figured we knew what he was saying. He'll say to anyone who will listen. "No one ever helps me into the pool. I've been here for 35 years without any healing, help, or hope." Then Jesus said something. No. It was more like a command. His hand shot down through the air and pointed down at old Gurney. It was as if he was giving Gurney something from himself. We all moved out away from him because we thought we were getting crowded out of our spot. But we all did want to see what was going on, so we stretched our necks to figure that out. Gurney, he began to move, yeah. He rolled onto his stomach, yep. He climbed to his knees, put his left hand on the shoulder of one of Jesus' men who had knelt down near him. He shuffled his feet a little bit, and then he stood up. He stood up. What? Nobody breathed. Nobody moved. He just stood there with his bony arms hanging there like wet palm leaves. And he just stood there. And then, now get that, he looked back. He looked down at his pallet. He looked down, and it was kind of a sad moment because it was as if he was saying goodbye to an old friend. And then he stooped down and rolled that pallet tight and hard, held it above his head, and laughed. Yes, laughed. Deep, rich, rolling laughter. We all started clapping, as if Gurney had done some marvelous magic. But by then, Jesus had slipped back into the crowd. All we saw was Gurney. Old Gurney. My, what? He was dancing down those terraces with the pallet twirling above his head like a clown does a painted barrel. Everyone was smiling. I even saw Jesus smiling at Gurney. Old Gurney, playing the fool with his happiness. The only people who weren't smiling were those two men by Rhonda's booth. They watched him, but they didn't smile. They followed him, but they didn't dance. Later on, Jesus passed my booth and went straight into Jerusalem. Now everyone has heard the news. A rabbi who heals better than scents, bubbles, or any our wares.
That's why nothing's selling?
That's why.
You want some oils? I got eucalyptus with berry strains. I might have a special on them.
I got a special on everything in my booth. By the way, you can keep the one you opened.
Sweet. You want to trade for anything else?
Nah, I think I'm going to close up. Take off for the day.
Okay.
And it was a Sabbath when Jesus had healed old Gurney. And the Pharisees saw him and said to him, "It is a Sabbath, and you are not allowed to carry your burden."
Look, that man, the one who healed me, he said, take up your pallet and walk. And I did. Look at me. I'm walking. I'm jumping. I'm dancing. Oh, oh, look at, not for 38 years have I been able to walk free. Look at these. Limbs strong. I say to my body, knees bend. And they bend. I say to my body, stand straight. And I reach the sky. And my spirit soars to the heavens. Oh, but Lordy, sudden health is exhausting. Look, I say to my body, lie down, and I lie down. And that is good.
Who was that man that told you to pick up your pallet and walk?
I don't know.
You must know him. We watched him as he walked up the terraces to you.
Well, I don't know. Look. I say to my body, knees bend, and they bend. Look, I say to my body, get up, and I stand.
Who was that man?
I only know him as the man who healed me.
On the Sabbath, when it is not permissible to carry a burden.
I carried a burden for 38 years. You should have arrested me then. The burden of infirm flesh and lameness. This pallet, it's light. Here, you take it. Now I carry no burden at all. I say to my body, run, and I run.
And for that reason, they began to persecute Jesus because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. And so Jesus slipped away across the Sea of Galilee to be alone with his disciples. But the multitudes followed him. And Jesus went up on the mountain, and he sat down and started to teach his disciples. But then, seeing the multitude, he had compassion on them, for they were hungry. And Jesus told his disciples to feed them.
Judith, stand still so I can hear.
I can hear. I've been hearing for hours and hours.
Judith, This one speaks of life.
True. And I want no creepy insect sharing this life with me.
It is but the grass that rubs against your ankle.
With a little dark body, several feet, and what looks like wings.
Hush, Judith.
Hush, Judith! Hush, Judith! Azil, I'm hungry, and so are you. You just won't admit it, but I can hear your stomach growling. You know, if you told me we'd be gone all day, I would have packed a lunch.
I only knew people were gathering here to hear Jesus.
He's touring all of Galilee.
Yes, and God has provided us a way to hear him today.
I could listen better if God had provided some barley soup, or even some bread and cheese.
Don't set your mind on such things. It'll only make you hungrier.
When my mind feasts on the thought of food, my feet don't cry so long from this long standing. Look, there's Athelia! Athelia!
Shh!
Athelia, over here!
Oh, Judith, Azil, it's good to see you. Isn't this wonderful?
Oh, we're enjoying it. It's long, but we're enjoying it. Where's Benjamin?
Oh, he's over there. He sent me to find my son, Becker. Have you seen him?
Oh, no.
Hush, Judith. He told us all to sit down.
Oh, thank heavens. Oh, you dear, sit with us. Becker will show up, don't worry.
Is Benjamin here?
Yes. We've been following these meetings ever since he left Gaulonitis. He left because of Herod.
I heard about that. That awful business with him and his friend John the Baptist.
Yep. Benjamin says that Herod thinks that Jesus is John risen from the dead.
Oh, sounds like something Herod would say. How does he explain when John and Jesus were together?
I don't know. Benjamin says he heard one of Jesus' disciples preaching about John and what John was preaching before he was baptized.
Did he tell about Salome? That's what I'd like to hear. I heard she twirled around Herod with all those veils until he would have done anything she asked. Dirty old man. Thinking he can get away with adultery just because he's Herod. What's this world coming to? A body's not safe. Thieves roaming the streets free as grass. Children being snatched from their homes for evil purposes. Don't worry about Becker here. These are good people. They may be a little foolish for staying at a meeting quite like this for so long, but they are good people. What's happening?
Well, it looks like Jesus and the disciples are meeting about something. The disciples look kind of worried, but Jesus doesn't.
He never is. He's compassionate, always compassionate. He seems to worry or care, about what other people care about, but he never worries, if you know what I mean.
No, dear, I don't. When I care about something, I worry. But then again, he is a man. Men never worry. Well, Azil didn't till I helped him do it.
Yeah, but I feel like Jesus is as much for me as he is for Benjamin. He makes me feel like a woman is a good thing to be.
I've always felt like a woman is a good thing to be. It's getting the men to see that is what's difficult.
Yeah.
What's he doing now?
Praying, I think. He's holding something up. It's in a pouch. It's small, and there's a boy over there holding the hand of the one called Andrew, I think.
Becker? Well, what's he doing up there? That's his lunch in Jesus' hands. Oh, I hope Jesus is going to eat that. It's leftovers. Oh, what has that child gone and done?
Do you want me to go get Becker for you?
No. I don't want anyone to know he's mine. Doing a thing like that. What's happening now?
Well, it looks like he's dividing it with the disciples.
Dividing what? It's a couple fish and 5 loaves of bread. They're not even fresh. Oh, Athelia, why didn't you bake fresh rolls this morning?
Why should you? You didn't know your son was going to have a picnic with Jesus.
I don't think they're going to eat it themselves.
Oh, good.
Looks like they're sharing it with the people.
What? What good would that do? Do they think feeding 1 out of 5,000 will make the rest of us contented? I think we should go back to Bethsaida. I've got some fresh fruit at home. You and Benjamin can come. Becker can stand in the corner.
Judith, sit down. The people are being fed.
With what? I know what I put in his lunch, and I know what he's already taken out of it. Grapes. A big bunch of them. If he hadn't eaten those, then at least one row could have been fed.
No, they're being fed. They're being fed. It's a miracle.
Well, hasn't this turned out to be quite the day?
I think I'm going to go back to Benjamin. Which disciple is that coming our way?
That's Philip. We've known him since he was a little boy. He's from Bethsaida, you know.
Ah.
Look at this. The disciples didn't even know what was going to happen. Look at their faces.
I think I'm going to go back to Benjamin. He may not know what's going on.
Bye. I'll tell Philip to tell Becker where you are.
Judith, sit down. He told us all to sit down.
I'm sitting. Hello, Philip. How's your mother?
Judith, this is not the time for that.
Well, I want him to know we're here. We might get a special serving. Well, you never can tell.
It's a miracle, Judith. A mighty sign from God. And here you are trying to get a special serving.
Well, there looks like there's going to be plenty. And there's nothing wrong with being friendly. His mother's going to be so glad to hear about this. She's been scared to death that Philip hasn't been getting enough to eat.
We handed it out, and it multiplied in our hands. The people wanted to make Jesus king that day, by force if necessary, their force. But Jesus slipped away up the mountain to be alone. That evening, the disciples went down to the Sea of Galilee to get into a boat. We had intended to cross over to Capernaum. Oh, it was dark. And the Sea of Galilee was very high because of the great wind. We got into the boat and rowed as hard as we could, and we only made it 3 or 4 miles. The very water seemed to fight against our oars. Storms come up very quickly on the Sea of Galilee, and sometimes they can be very severe. We were getting nowhere. And then Peter saw a light on the water. And he said, look, and we looked, and we saw, and we were terrified. But then from within the light, a voice, and it was the voice of Jesus. And he said, do not be afraid. It is I, Jesus, coming to us, his men on the water. Oh, when he reached the boat, we welcomed him into it. And immediately we were at the shore. Jesus, the public Messiah, had come to us in private sign. Things were never the same after that. We went with him wherever he went. We were there for the healings, and we heard him speak to the multitudes that always seemed to gather around him, or when he went to the synagogues to speak. And we knew that there was a place for us, his men, in his kingdom. And always, there were the Pharisees that had come to watch him. They were lurking shadows in every meeting. Inquisitive bystanders at every healing. They lurked and looked and lingered, just waiting for a chance to defame him. Jesus met them openly at the temple, at the Feast of the Tabernacles. He said, if anyone who is thirsty, let him come to me, and I will give him something to drink. And then, to the Pharisees, he said, I am the light of the world. If you abide in me, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
We are Abraham's seed. We have never been in bondage to anyone.
Before your father Abraham, when he knew of my day, he rejoiced, and he was glad when he saw it.
You are not yet 50 years old. And have you seen Abraham?
Before Abraham was, I am. And the people picked up rocks to stone Jesus. But Jesus slipped away out of the temple. And as he left the temple, he saw a man who was born blind. And he knelt down and spit into the dust. And with the mud that he made, he anointed that man's eyes. And the man was healed.
Dorcas, yoo-hoo, Dorcas.
Who calls me?
It's me, your cousin, Sapphira. Where are you?
Oh dear, I'm up on the roof, catching the last little bit of light for a little knitting. You can come up, you know the way. Greetings, dear cousin.
Greetings. And news. I just heard it myself. Here, I brought you some sesame cakes. Cut thin and crisp. They're delicious.
They may have been. The platter's empty.
Yes, I was afraid it would be. I ate several as I heard here. Never meant to eat them all, but they were good. Keep the platter.
Thanks. But dear cousin, I believe this one's mine.
So it is. I quite forgot. I borrowed it so long ago, I've come to think of it as mine. Now that it is returned, it'll be missed.
Oh, don't worry. If you ever find need for it again,
Thank you. Anyway, I have a story full of wonder to tell you. You know the beggar? The blind beggar at the temple? You know the one I mean.
Yes, the one blind from birth.
Until yesterday, that was true. Now they say he sees.
How wonderful. How is the beggar healed?
He was healed by Jesus.
I'm sorry, dear. This is my bad ear. You're going to need to speak up a bit.
I'm afraid to speak the name. The very walls have ears.
The walls may, but the clouds don't. Now, how is the beggar healed?
By Jesus. Shh! You never heard it from me. I'm not the one to run against the law. I have nothing to tell.
Then why have you come, and in such a hurry?
The sesame cakes. I came to bring you those sesame cakes.
The ones you ate?
Yes. That was an accident along the way.
Well, that of course explains it. So while you're here, might as well just tell me the story. How did it happen?
The healing healed him well as a raindrop, and a healing quite as rare.
Oh.
He was healed by you know who? On the Sabbath. You know who did it with clay pressed against the lidded eye? On the Sabbath. Oh, not very smart. Not very smart at all, with the Pharisees watching everything he did. Dear cousin.
Yes?
Is that a bowl of pods and honey?
Oh, yes it is. Eli was eating them before you went to the meeting. Would you like some?
Of course. Oh, well, thank you. I'll just take a few on this platter.
All right.
Anyway, as I said, that's quite good.
The story?
Oh, right. Healed him well as a raindrop, and a healing quite as rare. Never before a man born blind. No one ever recognized him. Oh, seeing faces different from the same face with no sight. Of course, he seemed far less humble walking in a straight line and stumbling all over the place. Oh, in fact, I've been told. I have. Yes, I have. I've been told by very reliable sources that not the Pharisee. Oopsie, my old mind playing tricks on me.
Okay.
The beggar.
Yeah.
The blind beggar. Well, not anymore, of course. Talks quite openly with the Pharisees, who tried to convince him, get this, that you know who was not from God. Because you know who did all that work on the Sabbath. The beggar insisted that you know who was a prophet, or you know who would not have done all that working and created such a miracle, which of course left no argument for the Pharisees except to say, get this, they said the beggar had never been blind.
No, they didn't.
Which is so much steam in a baking pot. Because we all seen him lying there, begging. What a shame. Dear cousin, I've run out of pods and have some honey left.
Help yourself.
Well, thank you. The Pharisees. You know the Pharisees. They called in the beggar's parents, who said they know 2 of the 3 things. They were shaking in their sandals, being called in like that. 2 of the 3 things, they said. This was their son. Oh, I know. Can you believe it? It was their son. And he had been blind. But how or why he sees was past their understanding. And of course, for them, the edge of ignorance. Knowing too much can get you into more.
Don't worry, I'll clean it up. Here.
Knowing too much can get you into more trouble than knowing too little. Oh, they would have been kicked out of the synagogue for taking sides. But as to who, or and as to how, the who became the why, if you know what I mean.
No.
Well, think about it. A man born blind. It's a sign, a miracle. One that might make one consider the possibility of someone being the MESSIAH. I never said it. I only spelled it. I spelled the word dearest to our highest hopes and dreams. But that is not for which I came. I came to borrow these few pods and honey. Oh, don't let me keep you from your knitting. I must go. Goodbye.
Signs. Great signs. In Cana, water turned to wine. In Capernaum, a centurion's son healed. In Bethesda, an invalid of many years healed. And on a mountainside near Jerusalem, 5,000 fed with a few fish and 5 loaves of bread.
A storm on the Sea of Galilee, and Jesus walks through it on the water. In Jerusalem, the healing of a man born blind. And in the small town of Bethany, a man raised from the dead.
My name is Martha. My brother Lazarus died and laid in the tomb for 4 days. Jesus had been in our home many times. Jesus and Lazarus were friends. I sent him a message telling him of Lazarus' illness. He was in Perea, a few days' journey from Bethany. He had healed a blind man on the Sabbath, further irritating the Sanhedrin. There was much talk of stoning Jesus, and his disciples warned him not to return to Judah at this time. But, of course, Jesus ignored their warnings and returned to Jerusalem for the Passover. On the way, he stopped to see us. I heard he was coming, so I met him just outside the city with the news of Lazarus' death. Jesus asked if I believed in the immortality of the soul. I recited the creed that I knew my brother would rise again in the resurrection of the last days. Have you ever realized how pitifully incompetent words are at handling grief? Phrases about immortality seemed minimized by the sudden size of a dead body. I believed in all my religion taught me, but as I said those words were more hopefully in sorrow. They seemed to have no relationship to my dead brother. Oh Lord, if you had only been here, you would not have died. Jesus said, I myself am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though he dies. Can you believe that? I told him I believed him to be the Messiah. And he told me to go get Mary, who had not left the house when I did.
I ran to meet him, all the while thinking like Martha, if only he had been here! If only he had been here! Jesus was deeply moved at seeing our grief, and I took him to see the cemetery plot. A crowd followed us. I'm always surprised at how death collects crowds. I mean, you appreciate the comfort, and sometimes hearing others grieve around you lessens the burden. But at such a time, I was surprised to find that we had a house full of company that had to be sheltered and endlessly fed, and in some strange way, graciously involved in all the activities of grieving. It's helpful. It's all helpful. But a social nature of a funeral is a surprising thing. I took Jesus to see the cemetery, and I was glad to know that I did not have to talk to Jesus about other things. We would do that, you know. As if talking about death in a cemetery was something impolite. But I was surprised when I heard Jesus say, "Open the tomb. Take away the stone," he said.
I reminded him that Lazarus had been in the tomb for some time. He died 4 days ago. None of us wanted to see him as he was now. The spices and ointments would not cover the odor of rotting flesh. There was no reason to reveal the corpse. But Jesus was definite in his request, and the stone was rolled away.
I can remember I shut my eyes, and the women around me shuddered. Even professional mourners did not expect to view a dead body after such a time. I couldn't believe it when I heard Jesus' voice say in a ringing command, "Lazarus, come out."
I couldn't either. I knew he had conquered some power over death, but I had wrapped my brother's body, and I knew how very dead death was.
Someone around me screamed, and I opened my eyes to see the form of my brother standing just outside the tomb. A handkerchief was still covering his face, and his hands and feet were bound for death.
Jesus said, "Unbind him and let him go home." I remember, at first we were afraid to touch him. I don't know why.
I think we were disoriented. We didn't know what to do or even how to act. Would the air around us, could we breathe it? Would the ground hold our steps? What would it be like to live in a day that saw death give back its victim?
We could scarcely get Lazarus home for people calling out to him and touching him. He seemed perfectly at ease, as though the whole experience was within his comprehension. I must say he handled himself well, considering his sudden fame. It wasn't a burden to him. He talked about his resurrection at meetings and gatherings and dinners and anything that could be scheduled. I used to tease him that he used more words to tell about it than Jesus did to do it.
Many of the Jews believed, because of this miracle, this seventh great sign, that Jesus truly was the Christ of God. But there were those that took the stories to the chief priests and the Pharisees. And the chief priests and the Pharisees convened a council. And from that point on, they planned to kill him.
You gentlemen asked to see me? Yeah, I'm a loyal Jew. Oh, I look forward to the kingdom. I believe it is near. Oh yes, I know this man, Jesus. He's a man of good intentions. I'm actually very close with him. He trusts me and I trust him. I wouldn't want any harm to come to him. But I have to agree with you. His actions are often ill-advised. He knows nothing of the cost of expediency or the cost of the kingdom coming. He heals the deaf, but his ear is deaf to me. Perhaps we can work together. For the kingdom, of course. It'll be difficult to catch him. He has great power. Of course, the one who turns his steps towards you will have to take certain risks. 10 pieces of silver? The going price for a slave is 20. 30? So let it be. I'll watch him for you, and if I see a time of vulnerability, I'll let you know. Perhaps after the Passover. His manor collects supporters. What do they know? These people who lean into the wind to hear his every word, who waste their oils and perfumes on his head, who brush past me to touch his garments. They are fools. But we indeed are wise.
They tell me the man Jesus was arrested tonight in the garden where he often went to pray. He came to my wedding, and he filled those empty vats with full vats of good wine. I remember him as a kind man, a man who was about to do great things.
The one who healed the master's son was tried one night late by the Sanhedrin because they feared him greatly. He did a great service for this family. See the child grown strong? It was but a word from Jesus that pulled him from his dying. They may not tell the child of this viciousness in Jerusalem. Children find it very hard to understand such things.
You know that guy, Jesus, who healed old Gurney? He has been tried by Pilate twice. A charge most unlikely the man I saw climbing the levels of invalids. I would expect it more of the two men standing behind Rhonda's booth. They were staring at him with his evil eyes, watching every move he took. But they seemed evil bent. But not he.
Oh, we wanted to make him king that day when he fed us all from one small lunch. And now they say he's crucified on our banner that calls him king indeed and of the Jews. You know, if he had let us make him king, he would not have suffered so. Perhaps the kingdom he chooses has its crown beyond the cross. It hurts. It hurts to think that the hands they pierced held so small a lunch and offered praise to God for every crumb.
My boys were out at sea, and when they came home, they had no other words but to say, "Praise to Jesus," who had come to them upon the water. I stood with Mary that awesome Friday morning at the foot of the cross, bearing her son, the teacher of my sons. For 3 hours we stood there until Jesus called down to his mom, "Behold thy son." And to my son, John, "Behold thy mother."
Oh, that I might give back my sight to save him from his pain. Alone, in the darkness, he writhed and cried with vinegar-stained lips one welcome word. It is finished.
We laid him in a borrowed tomb, rolled the stone in place, and secured it with a Roman seal, a Roman guard, and the stagnant finality of his followers' griefs.
He is risen.
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 He He is risen.
He is risen.
He is risen.
He is risen from the grave.
Praise God.
I was probably less surprised than anyone else.
Oh, really, Martha?
Well, I had seen him call Lazarus from the tomb when I knew my brother to be dead, buried, and done for. I was there. I knew him to be Christ. The grave couldn't hold him. Death couldn't claim him. Thanks be to our God, who gives us victory through our Lord Jesus Christ.
Thomas! 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 We have seen the Lord.
Maybe God comforted you with a vision,
No, we have seen the Lord.
perhaps an apparition, or some sort of manifestation of your own love.
We have seen the Lord.
Not me. Look, I loved him too, you know. I saw the signs. I held the fresh bread in my hands. I felt the rock of the boat as he added his weight to it. I toasted a wedding in new wine. I snatched the burial cloth off Lazarus' face. But unless I see the holes in his hands and in his side, I will not believe.
After 8 days, the disciples were all locked in a room. The door was closed. And Jesus came and stood in their midst, and Thomas was with them. See the nail scars in my hands. Feel the spear thrust in my side. Do not be faithless, but believe.
My Lord, my God.
You have believed because you have seen. Blessed are those who believe, but have never seen. Jesus did many, many more things than what are written in this book. But these are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, that he is the Son of God, and that in that belief you will find life in his name.
That you may believe, this night, you may believe there is hope.
That you may believe, when your plans cannot be realized, that you may believe there is peace.
That you may believe, today, you may believe in the darkness. There is light.
For the
Light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overpowered it.
The light shines in the darkness.
And it shines, and shines, and shines, and shines.